CDL Practice Test, Florida, Air Brake, Part 4. Question number 80. When should you use the parking brakes and air brakes at the same time? A. Never. B. When you're preparing to pull your vehicle out of a parking space. C. When you're preparing to park your vehicle. The correct answer is here. A. Never. Explanation. Never try to apply the brake pedal when the spring brakes are on. The combined force of the springs and the air pressure could damage the brakes. However, the brake systems on some, but not all, vehicles are designed to prevent this from happening. Question number 81. For a manual air tank, the water and oil are expelled by A. Flipping the drain valve switch on the bottom of the tank. B. Pressing the drain valve button on the side of the tank. C. Unscrewing the cap on the bottom of the tank. D. Turning the drain valve a quarter turn. The correct answer is here. D. Turning the drain valve a quarter turn. Explanation. Manual air tanks have a drain valve that must be turned a quarter turn in order to drain the built-up water and oil from the tank. Question number 82. What color are ABS malfunction lamps? A. Orange. B. Green. C. Blue. D. Yellow. The correct answer is here. D. Yellow. Explanation. Vehicles with anti-lock braking systems, ABS, have yellow malfunction lamps. Question number 83. What should you never do when the spring brakes are on? A. Press the gas pedal down. B. Use the modulating valve. C. Check the air in the air tanks. D. Push the brake pedal down. The correct answer is here. D. Push the brake pedal down. Explanation. If the brake pedal is pushed while the spring brakes are on, it can damage the brakes by combining the forces of the springs and the air pressure. Question number 84. The maximum leakage rates per minute after the initial drop are A. 1C for single vehicles and 3C for combination vehicles. B. 3C for single vehicles and 4C for combination vehicles. C. 5C for single vehicles and 6C for combination vehicles. D. 5C for single vehicles and 10C for combination vehicles. The correct answer is here. B. 3C for single vehicles and 4C for combination vehicles. Explanation. The maximum acceptable leakage rates per minute after the initial drop are 3C for single vehicles and 4C for combination vehicles. Any more than that and you should check for leaks and correct them. Question number 85. If you must make an emergency stop, brake so that A. You'll definitely lock the brakes. B. You can use the parking brake before the brake pedal. C. Your vehicle will stay in a straight line. The correct answer is here. C. Your vehicle will stay in a straight line. Explanation. If you must brake in an emergency, brake in a way that keeps your vehicle in a straight line while still letting you turn if necessary. You can use the controlled braking method or, in a vehicle without anti-lock brakes, The stab braking method. Question number 86. How can you tell if your vehicle is equipped with an anti-lock braking system? A. Still an optional system. B. If the vehicle is manufactured after 2000. C. If the vehicle is manufactured after 2010. D. If the vehicle is manufactured after 1998. The correct answer is here, D. If the vehicle is manufactured after 1998. Explanation. Vehicles made after 1998 are required to have anti-lock brakes. They will also have a yellow ABS malfunction lamp. Question number 87. When should you use the parking brake? A. Only if you are away from your vehicle for an extended amount of time. B. Every time you leave your vehicle for any amount of time. C. Every time you leave your vehicle, with rare exceptions. D. Only in urban areas, where there are many other vehicles. The correct answer is here, C. Every time you leave your vehicle, with rare exceptions. Explanation. You should always use your parking brake with a few rare exceptions, if the brakes are very hot or if they are wet and at risk of freezing. Question number 88. How would you check your truck's slack adjusters? A. Park on level ground, turn off the parking brakes, and press the brake pedal. B. Park on an incline and see if the vehicle rolls. C. Park on level ground, turn off the parking brakes, and pull hard on each slack adjuster. It shouldn't move more than 1 inch. The correct answer is here, C. Park on level ground, turn off the parking brakes, and pull hard on each slack adjuster. It shouldn't move more than 1 inch. Explanation. To check the slack adjusters, try to pull on them manually while wearing gloves. If there is an inch or more of give, then there is an issue and they should be fixed. Question number 89. Which of the following factors can cause brakes to fail or fade? A. Excessive use of the service brakes. B. Not relying enough on engine braking. C. Brakes being out of adjustment. D. All of the answers. The correct answer is here, D. All of the answers. Explanation. Brakes fading and failing generally happens from incorrect usage of the brakes, which causes excess heat. This may be from incorrect brake adjustment, not enough reliance on engine braking, excessive use of service brakes, another mechanical reason, or human error. Question number 90. To drive a tractor-trailer with air brakes, you must have A. A Class A CDL. B. Any CDL without an air brakes restriction. C. A Class A CDL without an air brakes restriction. The correct answer is here, C. A Class A CDL without an air brakes restriction. Explanation. To legally pull a trailer whose gross vehicle weight rating, GCWR, exceeds 10,000 pounds, you'll have to obtain a Class A CDL. If you don't pass a knowledge test on air brakes, your CDL will include a restriction limiting you to driving only vehicles without air brakes. Question number 91. What can happen if the air pressure gets too low in an air brake system? A. The brakes may squeak. B. The brakes may be sluggish. C. The brakes will be very sensitive. D. The brakes may not work. The correct answer is here. D. The brakes may not work. Explanation. Pressing and releasing the brake pedal unnecessarily can let air out faster than the compressor can replace it, reducing the available air pressure. If the air pressure in an air brake system gets too low, the brakes will no longer work. Question number 92. To test the air leakage rate, one must turn off the engine. With a fully charged air system, turn the key to the on position, release the service brake, and A. Measure the C as the air pressure gauge falls from its original amount. B. Measure the amount of pressure in the system. Then come back in about 30 minutes and measure the pressure again. C. Time how long it takes for the air compressor governor to cut in. D. Time the air pressure drop. The correct answer is here. D. Time the air pressure drop. Explanation. Timing the air pressure drop can determine if the vehicle is losing too much air pressure too quickly. This can cause loss of brakes while driving. Question number 93. The air loss rate for a straight truck or bus with the engine off and the brakes on should not be more than A. 3C in 1 minute. B. 1C in 1 minute. C. 2C in 45 seconds. The correct answer is here. A. 3C in 1 minute. Explanation. When testing for an air leak, you should turn off the engine and hold the brake for 1 minute. The air pressure should not drop more than 3C in that 1 minute. Question number 94. On a long or steep downgrade, once you have reached your safe speed, brake until you are traveling A. 10 miles per hour slower. B. 15 miles per hour slower. C. 5 miles per hour slower. The correct answer is here. C. 5 miles per hour slower. Explanation. On a steep downgrade, don't keep applying your brakes continuously because this might cause them to fade, become less effective. Instead, apply your brakes sparingly as a supplement to engine braking. Select a safe speed. Let your vehicle reach this speed. Brake gently until you are going 5 miles per hour slower. Then let your speed increase back to the safe speed. Keep varying your speed up and down this way. Question number 95. If you're driving a vehicle with a front brake limiting valve, you should A. Set it to slippery if you are driving on ice. B. Always keep it on the slippery setting. C. Always keep it on the normal setting. The correct answer is here. C. Always keep it on the normal setting. Explanation. Some older vehicles have a manually controlled front brake limiting valve to reduce air pressure to the front brakes when traveling on slippery roads. However, tests have since shown that front wheel braking is unlikely to cause a skid even on slippery roads, and reducing the air pressure reduces the vehicle's stopping power. Keep the front brake limiting valve on the normal setting at all times. Question number 96. Some air brake systems have an alcohol evaporator if you don't keep it filled with alcohol. A. Ice may form on the brake pads and warp them. B. The S-cam may not rotate back when you release the brake pedal. C. The brakes may stop working. The correct answer is here, C. The brakes may stop working. Explanation. In cold weather, check the alcohol level in the evaporator daily. Refill the evaporator as needed. The alcohol vapor keeps ice from forming in the lines and valves. Without it, ice could form in the system and stop your brakes from working. Question number 97. In what instances should you not use the parking brakes when parking? A. When the emergency brake is turned on. B. Always use the parking brakes when parking. C. If you are on level ground. D. If the brakes are very hot or very wet in freezing temperatures. The correct answer is here, D. If the brakes are very hot or very wet in freezing temperatures. Explanation. Parking brakes can be damaged if used while they are very hot. If they are used while wet in freezing conditions, they can freeze, causing you to not be able to move your vehicle. Question number 98. In a vehicle equipped with air brakes, the brake pedal, A, is connected to the slack adjusters by a series of rods and linkages. B, controls the air pressure applied to the service brakes. C, controls the speed of the air compressor. The correct answer is here, B, controls the air pressure applied to the service brakes. Explanation. The brake pedal controls the amount of air pressure applied to the service brakes. The harder the pedal is pushed, the more air pressure is applied to the brakes. Question number 99. How does the height of the vehicle's center of gravity affect safe handling? A. Trucks with a high center of gravity can stop faster. B. Trucks with a high center of gravity can get stuck on railroad tracks. C. Trucks with a high center of gravity can roll over at the posted speed limit for a curve. The correct answer is here, C. Trucks with a high center of gravity can roll over at the posted speed limit for a curve. Explanation. Trucks with a high center of gravity are much more likely to roll over on a curve, even if they are not exceeding the posted or recommended speed limit. When driving such a vehicle on a curve, slow down well below the posted speed limit. Question number 100. Air tank drains. A. Allow rainwater to enter the tanks. B. Should never be opened. C. Must remain open while driving. D. Are used to drain water and oil from the tanks. The correct answer is here, D. Are used to drain water and oil from the tanks. Explanation. In an air brake system, the air storage tanks are equipped with drains to allow water and compressor oil to be removed. The water and oil can damage the brakes if left to accumulate in the system. Question number 101. Spring brakes are A. Brakes that come on automatically on a truck or tractor when the C drops too low. B. Made up of powerful springs that are held in back by a pressure while you are driving. C. Not going to have full effect until your C drops to a certain range, often 20 to 30 C. D. All of the above. The correct answer is here, D. All of the above. Explanation. Spring brakes are an important backup system. Powerful springs that put brakes on if they sense that the air pressure has been lost for some reason, such as with a leak. They will also come on automatically if the C gets too low. though ideally you should take control of your brakes before the situation reaches this point. Question number 102. If the air compressor should develop a leak, what will keep the air in the tanks? A. The tractor protection valve. B. The one-way check valve. C. The emergency relay valve. The correct answer is here, B. The one-way check valve. Explanation. Federal regulations require a one-way check valve or an equivalent device to be located at the entrance to the first air tank, open bracket. In a dual air brake system, there must be a one-way check valve at the entrance to both the primary and secondary air tanks. If the air compressor or the line connecting it to the air tank develops a leak, the one-way check valve will prevent the air from going out. Question number 103. Service brakes should A. Be tested once a month. B. Only be tested by a trained mechanic. C. Be tested before every trip. The correct answer is here, C. Be tested before every trip. Explanation. Before driving, you should always verify that your service brakes are in good working order. Testing the brakes before a trip allows you to locate any problems before you need to brake while on the road. Question number 104. What color light indicates a vehicle's ABS is not working? A. Green. B. Blue. C. Yellow. The correct answer is here, C. Yellow. Explanation. On vehicles with anti-lock braking systems, ABS, yellow malfunction lamps alert the driver to ABS malfunction. Question number 105. The S-cam, A. pulls the brake shoes away from the drum, letting the wheel roll freely. B. forces the brake shoes against the inside of the brake drum. C. controls the flow of air to each brake chamber. The correct answer is here, B. forces the brake shoes against the inside of the brake drum. Explanation. When the S-cam rotates, it forces the brake shoes apart and against the inside of the brake drum. Friction will slow the rotation of the wheel. Question number 106. Repeatedly pressing and releasing, fanning, the brake pedal may result in A. no change in brake air pressure. B. a buildup of brake air pressure. C. a loss of brake air pressure. The correct answer is here, C. a loss of brake air pressure. Explanation. Each time you release the brakes, some compressed air leaves the system and must be replenished by the air compressor. If you keep pressing and releasing the brake pedal, air may leave the system faster than the air compressor can replenish it. The air pressure may drop to the point that the brakes won't work.